In the film, you were definitely the mom of the group. Can you describe what it was like working with Bowen, Joel, and the rest of the cast?
We really laughed. I mean, we had such a great time making it, and we were just so, I think, excited to be working together. Usually, if you're an Asian American on the set, you're the only one. So this is like really special when we're all together. So we were really, I think, enjoying that. It was really special. So I was just really grateful to be in the film, and I think that they're just such talented performers and in so many different capacities. So I was honored to be there.
Got it. So do you have a favorite scene that you would say um, in the whole movie?
My favorite scenes were all in the underwear party just because of the outfits. Like, even though you're just wearing like underwear, they're all very creative. Everybody's bodies look so great. I mean, all of the bodies in the movies are just so great. And that's really special. I think that but what's so special about the sort of like underwear party scenes is that there's no sort of morality put on this like sex party. You know, that this is just kind of a setting for what's happening. And to me, that's really meaningful that, we're not sort of rigid about this sort of moral strictures of like film and the sort of conservatism that film has always looked at sexuality from. So I found that really, really refreshing. And especially as an Asian American, and the way that kind of sexual images of us are so limited in a positive way that we have agency over. So this is like a really meaningful thing.
Absolutely. And watching the film, I really loved how it incorporated plot themes from Pride and Prejudice. What were your initial thoughts after reading the script for the first time?
I really love that it really has so much of like this reimagining of that kind of like courtly love and courtly life of um, not even Victorian England. I think it's Georgian England. It's like a very different sort of Regency time where it's like all the class struggle could only be resolved through love. And here is the same idea, like our class differences can only be abolished through matters of the heart, which I think is really meaningful and really beautiful.
Absolutely. And as you know, it's currently AAPI Heritage Month, and you've certainly been such a huge trailblazer for Asian representation throughout your career. How would you describe the impact and importance of seeing Asian representation on screen?
It's so important to feel seen and to see your story. And I think it has a really emotional impact because we're not used to it. And so when we're able to actually see ourselves, it's powerful. Um, like I watched Turning Red and I cried from beginning to end. Like it's supposed to be like this fun, like animated film. And to me, it was like seriously like the Joy Luck because it's like a really like emotional thing to see ourselves. And it's so rare to. And especially with Fire Island, it's like a queer film, and I was crying when I was watching it, and I know what's going to happen. So it's like really emotional, it's really deep, and it comes from not having any images of ourselves to really feel like we're here and we're people who matter. And that's I think what this film is really amazing about.
Absolutely. And I guess as a follow-up to that, what would you say was your experience with Asian media representation growing up? And what is it like to now see yourself in that representation?
I think that like when I was growing up, there was very little. I mean, there was so very rare instances where you would see Asian representation anywhere. Um, I guess would be like Bruce Lee. I remember that my family and like my extended family, they would get together and they would watch Bruce Lee films as a kind of cathartic release of like, let's all see ourselves together. It's a very heroic image, but that was all we had, and so it was so limited. And now, like having had, some part in bringing Asian representation to the mainstream media, it's really powerful. So I'm really grateful for my experience. But yeah, I don't even know like what was happening, why we sort of had this invisible like non-presence. Really, it's really sad.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite moments for your character during the film was when she was suddenly told that she had to throw a big dinner party. If you were throwing a last minute dinner party, what would you be serving?
I think I would make a hot pot because that's actually where you make your guests cook. So I would get the hot pot that's like the yin yang, so that you have the spicy broth and then the not spicy broth. And maybe I would do like a vegetarian one also. And so you would have lots of vegetables and lots of sort of bean curdy things on one side, and then you would have all of the meat and everything else and the fish balls and all that. I would do that because that's like the most easy, because you don't really have to cook anything. You just have to make the broth and get an extension cord for the cookers.
So, what is your go-to hot pot sauce?
I do love like a sesame, kind of like, or like a ponzu. And then I just also just love like a rice vinegar and chili crisp, kind of like I like the sour, spicy flavors of that. So to me, it's that kind of thing, or like chili oil, sometimes a mustard can be real good.
Absolutely. So, besides Fire Island, of course, are there any shows or films that you're obsessed with right now?
I think like right now it's I was really excited about All of Us Are Dead. It's like the K drama that was a webtoon that was on Netflix, that I was just like, I'm still kind of floored because it really does it's something that sort of talks a lot about the Sewell ferry tragedy, which was a really terrible accident where hundreds of students, Korean students, were killed. And my family is part of us were from Jeju Island, so they were on their way to Jeju Island. So there was a kind of like connection that I really have to that story. So I think that that series did a lot to kind of. It wasn't about Sewell, but it had a lot of the emotions that people were saying that it was really based on Sewell, which I think is really interesting, to take horror as a way to kind of metabolize our own grief around an incident. That and Our Flag Means Death, which is so beautiful. I love. I just love. And then two shows that I'm actually in, but I love both. They're on right now is Hacks and Flight Attendant, which I'm so honored to be in, but I actually love watching them. So they're very obsessive for me to watch.
Absolutely. I actually got to go to one of the screenings for Flight Attendant. I was so surprised to see you pop up, and that was really amazing.
Yeah, that's so fun.
So, I guess as a final question, why do you think fans of your past work should be super excited to see Fire Island?
I think that they'll just love Joel and Bowen. I think they'll love the story. I think they'll really laugh. I think it's a film that really represents kind of queers on vacation, and that sort of feeling of when you're supposed to be safe, because you're queer going into queer spaces, doesn't mean you're always safe. So that's a really meaningful idea, and I love that, and I think they'll really love the movie.
Great, thank you. So again, thank you so much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure. Congratulations again. It was truly an amazing film. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you.